I was playing 5-5-10 at Portland Meadows, and there was a new knit game, which means that everybody had a knit button in front of them. The last person to lose their knit button had to pay $150 to a splash pot. It creates a lot of action. It opens up the game. It makes people's ranges wider. And something notable about this is that we had been waiting to play the knit game for a while because people had to eat or have phone calls or something. You need the whole table to agree to the knit game and then be there for the whole knit game for it to work.
Right.
So there was a bit of a champing at the bit for the knit game. So I felt like ranges were a bit wide to begin with. So I was going to play the first hand here relatively cautiously, but I had a hand that I just couldn't lay down, which is the King Jack of Diamonds +2, which is just such a beautiful hand. I love it. I had 3,300 in my stack. Again, it was 5-5-10. I raised to 35, which is the same I did in the last table talk, in the 5-5-10. There's a competent player in the cutoff. I don't think he's a self-described pro. It's not his main income, but he plays more poker than me, and he's definitely winning in the game.
Okay.
He's like a good player. He has 3,500 in his stack, and he 3-bets me to 125 from the cutoff. Mm-hmm. It folds back to me. The two options are to 4-bet and to call. I'm never folding this hand.
No.
What are you thinking?
Never. I think it's a really straightforward call. We have a hand that really plays well, even out of position, even relatively deep. This is a very good hand, and we should only be 4-betting this hand in very particular scenarios against certain opponents or particular configurations. Like once in a while, we could do button versus small blind or something like their cutoff versus small blind. This hand really wants to call and see a flop. I just don't know why we need to blow out the pot anymore. And we get to keep his weaker ranges in, by the way. If he's like taking a shot because, oh, it's the Nick game, I want to play, and we get to keep all that stuff in. 4-betting, we lose all that stuff. Of course, we lose the pot sometimes, don't get me
we
wrong.
lose the pot a lot, too.
But
that's the only reason I considered 4-betting was because the range was a bit wider. Like I have like semi-relevant blockers to big hands, but it's more that like the 4-betting landscape is a bit wider open in this scenario than most.
I'm not saying the reason to do it is to keep the range in, but I'm saying that is actually a benefit of it as well, right? So we don't get blown off the hand or put all this money against a very strong range, which is generally what's going to happen when we 4-bet if he doesn't fold, right? His continuing range is now very strong. It has King Jack in a lot of trouble. Now we have lots of hands that don't have King Jack in a lot of trouble, but also mostly this hand just really wants to call. King Jack suited just really doesn't ever want to fold to a 3-bet and see a flop. So I think we should give it a chance to do what it wants here.
That's what I did. I lay down and let the King Jack suited drive the bus. That was the choice there. 270 in the pot now. Again, I have King Jack suited. I'm out of position to the 3-better. Flop is Ace of Diamonds, 9 of Spades, 7 of Clubs. So
not super.
The Ace of Diamonds is a nice card, but the 7 and the 9 are not ideal. They're not helping me, is what I mean. And
the ace ain't that great either. I mean, it's a diamond, but it ain't that great. Right.
It's the best card to be a diamond because if I turn a flush draw, it will be the nut flush draw.
Fair enough. But, if he had ace king, ace queen, ace jack, ace 10, so now he's got top pair, and it's going to be hard to get him off these hands down the road. Anyway, just saying.
Anyway, I check.
Yeah, of course.
He bets 125. So you just want to fold?
He is the same stack as we do, basically, right?
He has a bit more than us. We had 3,300 to start.
I think if we're in position, it's a pretty straightforward call. Being out of position is tough here. I think I just want to fold. I'm sure that's not what happened because it's a table.
No,
you brought us to this here. I certainly can see why people would call here. I just want to fold, though. Yes, I do. If we were a lot deeper, I'd be more interested in calling.
So my thought process, and I'm not saying this was necessarily the right thought process, but this was my thought process. Obviously, the Ace of Diamonds loomed large in my mind as a good card. Is that I can call and I can do something with it on the turn if I turn a good card. That's part of the plan. Another part of the plan is, maybe he takes one shot and shuts it down because he's bluffing, or he could have a pocket pair that hates this board. Yeah. And we could see a check turn and I could take a stab on the river. And the other part of the plan that's not as fun is, we get the deuce of spades on the turn and he bets again and I just fold, and that's just part of the game tree and that's part of what's going to happen sometimes. But I felt like it was just good enough and ranges were wide enough that I could make this call. and just navigate.
I mean, part of it really comes down to this player and if they're going to barrel a lot of turns or not, right? Like there's some players on this board are absolutely barreling almost every turn, whatever they have, because it's a good spot, right? Like they have ace king, you don't. They have ace ace, you don't. Not saying never, but like comparatively so, right? It populates much more of their range than your range, right? Like you have almost none of those hands. So
I mean, I really do have ace ace and ace king in this spot specifically, like a fair amount.
Grant, I understand you're saying that, but at the same point, you're four betting those hands a reasonable amount, more than half the time, right?
I am. So but it's not like they're not in my range. They are in my range.
That's fine that they're in your range, but they have a lot more than you do, right? They have all their aces and all their ace king. You have some of your aces and some of your ace king, right? That's a big difference. So it makes it a really attractive second barrel spot where it's just hard for you to hang on, even with a pretty good hand. Like if you have ace 10 suited, you're just going to go call, or whatever it may be. You know, you have a reasonable ace. Like they're threatening another barrel on the river. They can size up on the turn. I would say, so a lot of players are just going to keep firing away. And if that's the case, I don't like a call here because we're not going to get that information of like, oh, it goes check. Like if they have 2 4s in their hand or something like that, they may just fire again anyway on this particular board, right?
Yeah. I don't think he's a ubiquitous firer. He will fire sometimes, but he's not going to do it 100% of the time. Okay.
If he's going to have a reasonable amount of check back / oh, I don't love this spot, then the call makes a lot more sense to me.
Also, if he bets the turn and it's if I'm lucky enough for it to be an 8 of diamonds or higher of diamonds and it gives me a combo draw of some type, then I'm going to be I get to raise, and feel good about it. So
there just aren't that many cards that are going to bring you a combo draw. Like it doesn't come in enough that can be enough of your reason.
And if I turn the nut flush draw, I'm also not folding. I'm not sure if I'm raising. I think it depends on sizing. Mm-hmm. Either way, I call. Come play with the poker guys on Clubs Poker using the code POKERGUYS. We've been playing there for a while, and I got to tell you, it's a good site. I'm enjoying myself on the site, Jonathan.
Yeah, I play a lot there, and I will say a few things. One, the software is excellent. It's smooth. It works great. They pay out quickly and efficiently, and the games are fabulous, Grant. Just fabulous. Everyone should be on this site for sure.
Use the code POKERGUYS for a 100% deposit bonus. Okay. The pot is now 520. The flop was ace of diamonds, 9 of spades, 7 of clubs. I have king jack of diamonds. I'm out of position. 520 in the pot. 3 of hearts on the turn. Womp, womp. Womp.
Yeah, missed that.
Sad times.
Bad. Yeah.
So the plan is to check fold.
Yeah.
But I am not given the opportunity as my opponent checks back. So.
Okay.
So now the new plan comes into play, which is, well, if the river's innocuous, I guess I'm supposed to rep an ace now. Like just because he could have a pocket pair and he could have like 9-10 suited or something too. I need to make sure I win.
What's a card you wouldn't decide to rep the ace on the river? I can't really think of any.
Yeah, I guess the worst cards are probably queen and 10. But yeah, you're right. I'm probably repping the ace most of the time.
I think
right. Maybe ace is bad. Ace might be the bad one.
Because even an ace you're probably betting. I think the only rivers you're not betting are like a king or a jack. You might bet a king for value, maybe. A jack you're probably checking, but you might check to bluff catch with those hands because they're pretty good bluff catching hands.
Yeah, you're right. I'm usually bluffing the river here.
Yeah.
The river is the 3 of spades. So it's now ace of diamonds, 9 of spades, 7 of clubs, 3 of hearts, 3 of spades.
Okay.
So I did something a little strange. I'm not sure I like it.
Did you
I
check?
bet small. I bet pretty small.
Tiny. Okay.
I bet 175 into 520. Because this player is very much invested in the story of the hand. Like he understands theory and stuff, but he also like he susses out bad stories. That's kind of part of his deal. So I felt like 175 just expanded my value range and would make him want to fold a lot of his pocket pairs. And if somehow he had king queen, obviously we wanted to get that out of there too, because that would be a disaster if he had king queen. Or any 9-10 or 7-8 suited type hand, right? Although those hands are pretty interesting to bluff with. Who knows what he would do with those? I don't. What do you think about the 175? Do you think it's just a big mistake? I'm overthinking it?
I think you're overthinking it a little bit. I think 175, I understand the story of it makes it look like you have ace jack or something. You're just begging to get called by a small pair. And I mean, certain opponents that will really work. But anyone who's even a little bit sensitive to the math of it is going to just talk themselves into a lot of calls. Our friends who play a lot of GTO, or trying to play at least GTO, are just going to be like, look at the price I'm getting. I don't have to be good that often. I gave him some rope when I checked back the turn. He could be turning a small pair into a bluff here easily, right? You could have 7-6 suited and be turning that into a bluff to try and fold out slightly bigger over pairs. I don't have to be right that often. I call. I'd be really worried about that. I think a bet of more than half pot, not a lot more even, tells a cleaner story that also folds out those kinds of hands more of the time. So I would be inclined to bet bigger.
Yeah, fair enough. Anyway, he raises to $400.
So how big is the pot again when we started?
It was 520. I bet 175. He raised to 400.
So he's almost clicking back your raise.
Yeah, but what does he have? What does he have that played this way?
It's incredibly hard to come up with anything that makes real sense. Is he ever checking back a set on the turn on the ace high board after you called on the flop? That doesn't make any sense.
It would have to be a set of aces. That would
even then. Why wouldn't he bet again? You called. Why wouldn't he bet? He doesn't have to bet big, but he should bet something, right?
Yeah. Would he check back ace 3 where he turned 2 pair on the turn? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. If he somehow had pocket threes and turned to set, he would bet the hell out of that because he unblocks the ace. It's really hard to come up with hands he has that are really strong here. What does he have, though, that he's making this raise with? Because you would think he expects to get called when he makes this raise, right?
I mean, you know how I told you he was invested in the story?
Yeah.
He's trying to tell a good story, I think.
He's going to try and get you to make a really tough fold or something? Okay.
Yeah, so I think
this smells bad. This smells like weak and bad. For sure.
I think he has a lot of pocket pairs that are just like believing my story that I have an ace and trying to make me fold an ace with this like strange.
He messed it up. I feel like he messed this up with the sizing. He needs to bet. If he goes big enough, the story can start to smell slightly off, and it's a much harder spot for you. But like if you actually have ace 10, which is what he's trying to fold out, or ace 6 suited, right? Like you're just going to call way too often based on this story that he's telling for this price. But if he makes it $800, you're going to fold that hand a lot more of the time. I feel like this is a mistake, even if he's targeting that part of the range. I feel like it's not going to work against that part of the range. You don't have that part of the range, but
it may not. We'll never know. I have king high. So
yeah.
So now I have to think this through. Like, am I just going to surrender this pot because I have one of the worst hands I can ever show up with? That would be reasonable, even though I don't think the story is great that he's telling. At the same point, I can't really call because he can easily have me beat with a hand that is like a pocket pair that's trying to get to fold out an ace, right?
It's raise or fold for sure.
So I decided I fell on raise, and my sizing process was a little bit. It took me a little while to figure out my sizing on this. How would you think through your sizing process here?
Okay. There's some hands he's going to have that are just going to be insta calls for him, no matter how we size it, right? Like all his strong value is an insta call.
Or shove.
Okay, fair enough. Whatever. Continue. Because it's all the same to us. Whether he calls or shoves, it's all the same to us, right? We're not going to put another dollar in after whatever so you're right.
Yeah.
So insta call or insta shove. So I don't know that we need to go huge here. We're not trying to blow him off like ace jack. That's not the intention. By the way, any kind of 3-bet would probably blow him off ace jack anyway at this point. But if he has like aces up, not with the 3, but he has like ace 9, right? Because it was ace 9 7, right?
Yeah.
Ace 9 7 3 3. So if he somehow has ace 7 or ace 9 and decided to slow play it on the turn, which I don't know why he'd do that, but maybe he would. And I assume he's going to call no matter how we size it. Like maybe if we go all in, he'll fold, but that's not what we're doing. We're actually targeting the weak part of his range. That's what we're really doing here, right? So we don't need to go big either, because the weak part of his range should find folds really quickly and easily if he's got these pocket pairs. Even, by the way, as we're saying, if he somehow has ace jack and he's just attacking your weak small bet, you don't have to go very big to make that fold when we show our claws now, right? And all his strength isn't going to fold anyway. I think we can go very small here. So he made it 400. I wouldn't click it back. You are the kind of guy who clicks it back exactly. I would never actually do that. But I wouldn't go huge either. He makes it 400. I think I could get away with like 725, 750, maybe 800 at the max. I don't know that I need to go any bigger than that.
That's really small. I went what I thought was small. I went 975.
Okay.
Which
still
is
relatively
still small. I mean, it's giving them a good price.
They're all doing the same thing. They're all putting up the flag saying, like, I have a very, very strong hand, and if you don't have a very strong hand, you just have to fold. If you do, you're never folding anyway. This feels like a polarized binary decision point for him. Like, there shouldn't be too much in between of, like, you shouldn't have to think very hard when we raise.
Yeah, I'm repping ace 3 plus here, by the way. I could easily have, as played, I could have ace 3. That makes a decent amount of sense. I could also have 7-7 or 9-9. Those are my main reps here. And I guess quads. Sometimes I have quad 3s, but I probably don't call the flop that often with 3s. So
yeah, it's really hard for you to have a 3 in your hand unless it's ace 3. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. It's basically impossible.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's probably not that many ace 3s out there because you'd have to be suited, right? So there's very few combos of that anyway. But okay, but that's the only way you can have a 3. That's right. I guess quads.
So it's 9-9, 7-7, ace 3. But sometimes it doesn't matter. Like if you're repping a thin range, if like it's such a rare situation for somebody to 3-bet the river. Like if he's bluffing, he's just done. He's just done. He's not gonna like keep going.
Absolutely. If he's bluffing, or if he's like somehow being like, oh, you didn't make it enough. Like my hand's good enough that I'm gonna try and get more value here. Like he's done anyway. Like with all these things. Like right. He's just done. Yeah. So I think this is a good play. I would have gone smaller. I don't know that we need to even go 975 or
you might be right.
I think it's all the same. I wonder if a click back actually is the right play because it's all the same. Maybe we can invest almost nothing into this pot and still get the same results. I'm not sure. I would probably want to put a little more into it, but I would think this is a play that's going to work against all of that range all the time. And if he somehow has a better hand, God bless.
Yeah. Fair enough. So to his credit, he tanked for a while.
Really?
And then he ended up folding. So good. I win the pot. I had to turn my hand over because in the Nick game, I don't like show bluffs and put it in people's faces. That's not what I'm doing. But in the Nick game, you have to show your hand in order to lose your nip button. So I turned my hand over. He told me he had king, queen of spades, and he was genuinely considering raising. And I believe that he was considering raising.
Wow.
Yeah. That would have been the sickest hand I ever played in my life if he actually raised with king, queen of spades there.
That is wild.
Yeah.
He was considering raising.
Yeah. I mean, you can't call with king, queen of spades. I believe him that he wasn't just, and he's not just tanking the Hollywood.
No, of course.
Yeah.
No, but to have king, queen there and be doing that is pretty wild.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, see, that check back on the turn messes him up. Like, he loses the story when he checks back. For someone who's story sensitive, like, he's really not able to tell a story at all when he checks back that turn on that board, right, against you.
Yeah, I guess that's how it went down. Yeah.
I'm sick and tired of being tired of being sick. In my head 24/7, how I'm supposed to pay the rent. Missing practice, I don't play. Friday nights we on the bench, trying to come up with a play. If it don't work, then hit a lick. 12 knocking at my door, praying they ain't tell. I'm studying her word, prayer. Baby Excel, got away with way too much. Should've got expelled, but the school saw my potential. Smart kid trying to rebel.